G'day everyone, welcome back to the channel for the second week of the tips. Today I'll be going over my round 2 AFL tips and predictions, as well as going over round 1, see what I got and to see what big calls I got correct and to see if I have to do a punishment or not. So it was an interesting round 1, I actually quite enjoyed it. The quality of football was at a pretty good standard, and if it can continue throughout the entire season, we're in for a really good season, I reckon. Last week I didn't do great in tipping, let's just say that. I tipped Melbourne to win by 22, I think it was, and they won by 26. So I got the margin pretty close in the first game. I tipped Richmond to beat Carlton, expected them to get up. Carlton were a better side. I tipped St Kilda to beat Collingwood, got that one wrong. I tipped Essendon to beat Geelong, I also got that one wrong. And I tipped GWS to beat Sydney. The games where I tipped the upsets for, they didn't happen, but then the upsets occurred for the games I didn't tip the upsets for, which is quite unfortunate. I got the next 3 correct, tipping Brisbane, Hawthorn and Freo. And I tipped West Coast to beat Gold Coast, which was a mistake because I think they lost a couple more plays after I did my tips. So I really should have changed my tip to Gold Coast, because West Coast, they really didn't have a great chance of winning that game. So I ended up with 4 out of 9, which was a really disastrous start for round 1. It already puts me far behind everyone else in all the tipping comps that I'm in. And unfortunately, ESPN tipping didn't register my first tip, Melbourne Bulldogs. So the one game I actually did well in, it didn't register, so I'm 3 out of 9 and I'm almost out of the tipping competition for the whole year. As we go on to the big calls, and spoiler alert, I didn't get them all correct. In fact, I only got 1 correct, and that was the first game of the season. I was looking on where I predicted Oliver and Petrarca to have 65 or more touches. They had like 70 plus touches, but after that I got them all incorrect. So unfortunately, for my sake, I have to do a punishment. The one that got the most likes is from ET's AFL and more, and the punishment was to go to a Saints game and barrack as hard as you can for a team that isn't playing. The second one with 75 likes is from Geordie Pluto, of course, and that's to sing Wiggle songs outside Southland with my dad, Ben Coupe. And then the one with the third most likes is from Shannon Humphries, and it's for him to do the segments for the next footy tipping video. So obviously I don't want to do either of the 3, but we'll go to the wheel to see which one I'll have to do as my punishment for this week. We've got 2 Wiggle songs, 3. The ones with the most likes, there are more on the wheel, and the one with the least have the least amount of entries. So we'll spin the wheel. Let's see what we get. And it looks like we have got the one with the most amount of likes, which is support against St Kilda, or against a team that doesn't play in the next Saints game. I won't guarantee when I'll get this done, because the punishment says I've got to wear their own team's merchandise, and I don't really have any merchandise of any team that isn't the Saints. So look, if I do it, I'll do it for like a minute. I'm not going to do it for a whole quarter or obviously the whole game. I'm probably going to do that for the next Saints game that isn't a home game that I can attend, which will probably be round 4. So expect that punishment to happen in a few weeks' time. Anyways, those were the punishments. Again, if you're new to the channel, you can feel free to comment down a punishment that's appropriate and that's doable. The 3 with the most likes get put into a wheel, and then in next week's video I spin the wheel to see if I have to do any of the punishments. So we'll get straight into the tips for round 2, and we have a pretty good game to start off proceedings. We've got Thursday night, Bulldogs v Carlton. Now, after what we saw last week with the Blues getting up, sort of dismantling Richmond in the last quarter, you know, I feel like this could be set for one of the best games of the round. This could easily be a really good game, and particularly considering the Bulldogs weren't really up to it last week against the D's. It was a bit similar to how the grand final actually played off. I feel like the Dogs were quite average, and you know, Carlton, they can well and truly start the season 2-0. They have every chance of winning this game, and I'm sure Carlton fans will believe that they can get it done. Just have a feeling that the Dogs will respond, and I can't really see a team like the Dogs with their caliber starting the season 0-2. Same with the Blues. I mean, if they win this game, they've got Hawthorn and Gold Coast in the next 2 games. So I don't know if they'll start the season 4-0. It's hard to believe. I think I'll go the safe one here. I could easily see Carlton winning again in a bit of an upset, but I'll go safe, and I'll tip Bulldogs by 15 points. With my big call, 4 or more plays will record 30 or more disposals. The next game we have another ripper. We've got Sydney v Geelong at the SCG Friday night. I think I'll be streaming this game, and it's going to be a really good game to stream, because I could arguably say that these are the 2 most impressive sides of round 1 that we saw. Particularly Geelong. I mean, they completely dismantled Essendon. It's like Essendon weren't even there. They were playing into witches' hats. And to be quite frank, they probably should have won by more. They had, I think, 28 1 goals, 18. They were just all over Essendon, completely destroyed them. Whereas the Swans, on the other hand, they were also really, particularly after half time. I mean, it was one of the probably the best game of the round. It was really, really exciting to watch. High scoring, free flowing, and it seemed like it was going to go into the wire until the Swans kicked away, particularly in that last quarter, kicking, I think it was 4-1, and they, got the job done by 20 points. Parker kicked 5 goals. Florent was really, really good, but he didn't kick his 1,000, so again, there could be a chance of it happening this week, but considering he only kicked the 1 goal, I feel like it might happen in round 3 against the Bulldogs. So this one could go either way. I could see any side winning this one, but I feel like home ground advantage. Sydney got the job done against the Cats last year. I think I'll lean on the Swans, but again, any side could win this one. But I feel like the Sydney Swans can get the job done at home, and I'm going to go the Swans in another close one by 7 points. And my big call will be that Tom Hawkins boots 5 or more goals. He was really impressive against the Bombers last week, and I think he can back up his form and can kick another bag of goals against the Swans. Now, we've got the first Saturday game here between Collingwood and Adelaide at the MCG. The two sides that were quite impressive last week, particularly the Pies. I mean, I didn't rate them leading into 2022. I thought they were going to finish last, honestly, and now I can safely say that that's probably not going to happen. I think I can regret what I said there. Collingwood look like a better side under Craig McRae. They just take a lot more risks. They took way more risk than the Saints, always kicking it in the middle of the ground. They were fast attacking, always wanted to score. They made St Kilda look like a second-rate side. I mean, Collingwood, the way they played, they almost looked like a top 8 side. So, Collingwood were very impressive. Adelaide were also quite impressive, particularly in that third and fourth quarter before, obviously, the Dockers came back. Look, I feel like at the MCG, Collingwood will have their home fans, and I think they're a slightly better side than the Crows after what we saw round 1. I know you can't take too much away from round 1, but if I'm going to be going over how these two sides played, I think Collingwood will get the job done here by 23 points. I think they cruise away in that last quarter, and my big call will be that Adelaide score less than 60 points. Some part of me just has a feeling that this game won't be that high scoring, particularly for Adelaide's sake. The next game we have on the 26th of March, Saturday, 4:35 p.m, we've got Essendon taking on the Brisbane Lions at Marvel. Essendon, safe to say, they were probably the most disappointing team in round 1. They weren't up to the contest from the first bounce, really, particularly the midfield. I mean, they just let Dangerfield and Selwood and all those players just walk it out the midfield, and they kept giving the Cats forwards, shots on goal, chances at scoring, which they obviously did. And it wasn't a great day for the Bombers. It leaves a lot to be desired. Will they have a poor season this year, or was that just a poor outing and they'll bounce back? Personally, I'm not too sure if they will bounce back, particularly against the quality that the Lions provide. I think Brisbane are definitely one of the premiership favourites. They weren't at their best against Port. It only took a quarter and a half of good footy from the Lions to run over the top of the power. But I think Brisbane should win this game. They're a better side than the Bombers. It wouldn't shock me if Essendon bounce back and play their best brand of footy against the Lions, because Brisbane aren't the best side at Marvel. They don't play there very often. But I think the safe tip here really is just to go Brisbane. They're a better side than Essendon. Essendon look like shambles in round 1, and I'm going to go the Lions to win this game by 31 points. I think they should get it done quite comfortably. My big call for this game is a bit of a random one. Brisbane to record the last 3 scores of the game, because if they have a big last quarter like they did against Port Adelaide, then I can see this one happening. So the next game, we've got Port Adelaide, as I just mentioned just then, taking on Hawthorn at the Adelaide Oval, 7:40 p.m. on a Saturday. Both sides impressed me. They played better than I thought they would play. Port Adelaide were probably the better side for most of the game against the Lions. They just ran out of legs, and they've got some injury worries now, particularly in the back line. They're going to be missing Aaliyah for, I think, 8 weeks. McKenzie, I don't know when he's going to come back, and then I think Dersmer is an out as well. So it wasn't a great night for the Power, particularly on the injury front. Hawthorn again impressed me, particularly their back line. I mean, CJ looks like an absolute gun. I only watched a bit of that game against North Melbourne, but Hawthorn, they look like a better outfit than North, and they look like they might be all right, and they look like they might do all right under Sam Mitchell. It's a safe bet to go Port Adelaide. I can't see them dropping this game, particularly against the Hawks. If they go 0-2, there'll be major worries for Port Adelaide, and the pressure will be put on Ken Hinkley here. But I think at Port Adelaide, they should comfortably win this game. I'll go Port Adelaide to win it by 19 points. I think Hawthorn will provide a challenge in this one. However, my big call will be that Hawthorn go goalless in any quarter. So the last game we've got on Saturday, and this is the later game, which is between Gold Coast and Melbourne at Metricon Stadium. The Suns dismantled West Coast, particularly in the last quarter. I think they kicked 8 goals to 2 in that last quarter to just run over the top of a depleted West Coast side, or we all know that. And Melbourne, well, they didn't take a step backwards. They continued their stellar 2021 form with a 26-point victory against the Bulldogs. You know, they were a bit shaky in that second quarter. I think the Dogs kicked 6 or 7 goals in a row, but their ball movement was a lot better. Their skills were a lot better, and they were just, you know, a more dominant outfit. There is a slight chance Gold Coast could upset them. Melbourne go into this game not expecting too much out of the Suns. They always start seasons off really well, Gold Coast, so it wouldn't entirely shock me if this is the upset of the round, but I still think they'll win the game, even if Gold Coast play at their very best and Melbourne don't. Melbourne are just way too good of a side to lose to Gold Coast, but it wouldn't necessarily shock me if Gold Coast put up a massive fight and challenge to get a win. But I'm going to go the safe tip here to go the Ds. I think they're obviously a better outfit, but I think it'll be a fairly close battle. I'll go Melbourne to win this game by 14 points with my big call that the Gold Coast Suns lead at any quarter throughout this game. The next game of the round, we've got North Melbourne take on West Coast Sunday, 1:10 p.m. at Marvel. I feel like this could be the most lackluster game of the round. No one really is going to be putting on the TV to watch this game because, let's be real, both sides, they're going to be finishing low on the ladder this year. North, they were okay against Hawthorn, but Hawthorn were just too good in the end. I didn't really catch too much of the game, but they fell short by 20 points. West Coast, they were just completely hammered with injuries. I think I read somewhere that 12 or 13 of their best 22 weren't playing against the Suns. And, I mean, it did show. They just looked like a second-rate side. They had a lot of youngsters. You know, they just haven't played enough against each other, and that's what exposed them. Even though they lost by 27 points, they were somewhat impressive to, you know, keep up with them for 3 quarters, but they just ran out of legs at the end. They'll have a couple more players coming back for them. I'm not too sure who. I think Tim Kelly is one of them. At Marvel, I think North can play well enough to beat the Eagles here. I think North Melbourne are just a slightly better side at the moment on paper because Eagles still have heaps of players out. So I'm going to go North Melbourne to win this game by 13 points in a somewhat surprisingly entertaining game, in my opinion, as my big call will be that there'll be 9 or more lead changes throughout the whole game. Second last game at the MCG, we've got Richmond taking on GWS Sunday, 3:20 p.m. Now, one of these teams is going to start the season off 0-2, which is going to be pretty tough if they want to be making finals this year, which I'd assume both teams would probably expect to be making finals, particularly the Giants. Richmond, they looked really good for some patches against the Blues, particularly in that first quarter. I was regretting having them finishing 12th in my ladder predictions, but at the end of the game, I sort of was glad I had them in 12th because they just looked lackluster, particularly in the midfield. They got absolutely smashed against Carlton, and with, you know, the quality in GWS's midfield in Cornelio, Kelly, Tom Green, he was super impressive against Sydney. I feel like they might struggle in that department again in this game. You know, it's a bit of a tough on this one because if this is at home for the Giants, I definitely tip the Giants, but part of me feels like Richmond might bounce back. I'm going to go Richmond to win this game by 6 points in an absolute thriller, with my big call being that the Tigers win the game after trailing at 3/4 time. And the last game of the round, Sunday, 6:20 p.m. at Optus, we've got Fremantle taking on St Kilda. It's going to be one of the few Saints games this year where I won't be going to. So yeah, expect me to be streaming this game. Fremantle, well, they were good for patches of the game against Adelaide, particularly in that first half, but they just weren't able to finish things off with their accuracy. They should have been up by more at half time, and then their inaccuracy brought the Crows back into the game, and they were very lucky to walk away with the points, the Dockers, and you can thank Keith Chapman because that spoil saved them points. If he would have not got a fist onto that, it would have been a Crows goal, Crows win, and if he would have fisted over the line, it would have been a draw. So, you know, that was outstanding play. What a finish to that game, honestly, and Freo will definitely take that to start the season off 1-0. St Kilda were bitterly disappointing against Collingwood. I expected us to walk away with a fairly comfortable win, but the way we played, we just weren't up to it. We weren't playing as a team. A game style, kicking it long down the line to the wing. It was just boring to watch. We really need to bounce back. There needs to be a few selection changes ahead of this game Brett Ratter needs to make, because if we play the same way as we did against the Pies, against the Dockers, we're going to get beaten pretty soundly. I feel like this game could go either way still. I don't want to be biased or anything, but the Saints could easily win this game. We always respond after performing really poorly, and we always play a lot better when we're the underdogs. We're not expected to win, and I'm sure most people would be tipping Freo, and rightly so. They probably should win this game. I think it's going to rain as well, so if it's a wet contest, I don't know which team it suits, but I feel like the Saints are a pretty decent wet weather footy side. I'm gonna go the Saints in this one. I'm gonna be slightly biased here, tip them by 8 points. I think we can get it done. And if I needed to be tipping upsets for this week, for this round, why not tip an upset for my own side? So I'm gonna go the Saints to win it by 8. And my big call will be that the margin doesn't exceed 18 points at any time. And if it's gonna be wet, then yeah, I don't see any team getting out to that big of a lead. So there we go, guys. Those were my round 2 AFL tips and predictions. I finished on 3 out of 9, which is absolutely terrible. Liam had got a perfect round. He tipped 9 out of 9, and because of that, he gets an extra point. You get an extra point for tipping a perfect 9 out of 9. I am placed 673rd out of 701. So if you haven't joined the tipping comp yet, I'll put it in the pinned comment. Gabe Gamer finishing on the bottom with 1 tip correct and a total margin of 42 is pretty pathetic. How many people got a 1? Only one. Only Gabe Gamer got 1 out of 9. So unfortunate for you there, mate. So yeah, thank you all for watching the video. Let me know if you've got any video ideas you want to see throughout this footy season, particularly over the next couple of weeks. And we'll see you soon in my next video. Cheers.